having a culture, because it has a lot of emotion, you have people that have built something that they are extremely proud of and they're tied to, but also those same people can sometimes get in the way of continuing to scale. And there's a lot of different ways I've seen this approached in terms of I've seen leaders come in and just say, it's easier to clean house and start again. That's very much like the antithesis of my leadership style.
Welcome to Grow Think Tank. This is the one and only place where you will get insight from the founders and the CEOs of the fastest growing privately held companies. I am the host. My name is Gene Hammett. I help leaders and their teams navigate the defining moments of their growth. Are you ready to grow?
You know your people are critically important to scaling your business. If you want to grow faster than you are right now, you can't just work harder. You have to be able to leverage through people, and you want to make sure that you're doing this the right way. Today we look at cultural transformation. That is a big word or a big phrase, but it really is something that you have to consider as CEO of the company. When you think about what it takes to grow your business, the cultural transformation is about how people work together and about how people change from where they are today to that next level. We have to go through these things every once in a while as a company grows. And today we look at it with our special guest, the CEO of Simpler Trading, Brittany Burns. Brittany talks about what it takes to lead a company through a cultural transformation. Some of the very details behind that is being open-minded and being able to look to advisors to help you do that process, and also the humbleness that it takes to be the leader through all these changes. You'll love today's interview if you want to make sure that your people are aligned and that you are working together as a team. Now, if you are a leader and you want to make sure you are zeroing in on exactly what to do next, if you're focused on letting go of control at this phase of your leadership, then you want to make sure that you have a clarity call with me. That will give you an idea of what's getting in the way of you growing your company, you being the best leader you can be. All inside that clarity call, absolutely free. I want to make sure you go to my website, genehammett.com, and schedule your call. When you do that, you will be set up with just answering a few questions, but also I will prepare for this conversation before we get on the call. I'll understand your business and I'll take time to truly understand what's getting in your way and help you get more clear about that. Inside that clarity call, it will help you become a stronger leader and identify exactly what to do next, and that is power. All you have to do is go to genehammett.com, schedule your call, do it today. Now here's the interview with Brittany.
Brittany, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I am fantastic. Excited to have you on Grow Think Tank.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me.
We have been looking at your company, looking at the impact that you're making as a CEO there. And before we dive into all things leadership and culture that we normally talk about, tell us about Simpler Trading.
Yeah, so Simpler Trading is a financial education platform. We are focused on being the one-stop shop for retail traders. And so what that means, we offer education in the options, futures, stock base, as well as tools and research just to help empower the retail trader in these ever-changing markets.
Love that. And you guys have had some incredible growth over the years, but your company is not new. You've been around for a long time, but you're a new CEO to this. Tell us just a little bit about that story.
Yeah, so Simpler was founded back in 2001 by John Carter. And for a long time, it was really just John and his way of creating some community around trading, which can be a very lonely profession. So he had left the corporate world, was a full-time trader, and was very, as he jokes, tired of talking to his fish. And so he started writing some of his trades and making what would equate to like blog posts early on in his in the company's career. And then the company started to evolve in about 2005, 2006, and really started to continue to scale. We started to diversify into new asset classes, add new content providers, and discovered affiliate marketing. And that really took the company to the next level in about 2013, 2014. But around that time, that's where we really sort of reached our plateau and started to even out. And really just we're hitting a lot of challenges, I think, that are very typical for high growth companies. They've scaled the company from 0 to about 13 million, and we just sort of got stuck there. And as a founder, John reached a point of, okay, do I want to bring somebody on to help me get this to the next level, or do I want to continue for this to be a lifestyle business? Because there's nothing to shake a stick at $13 million a year. Like, that is great revenue. They had great EBITDA, but he really saw a vision to build out truly a platform that served the retail traders, also served this content maker economy that's now starting to grow. And so he really wanted to be able to help scale that platform and have an insane amount of respect for him, because he recognized I need to take a step back and help bring in some leadership that can help me do that. And so that's really kind of where I came in, and here we are.
I love that someone's ability to say, this is not my strong suit. I can take it to this point, but I need some support. And I would imagine, some of the things you guys did was clarify a lot of stuff, focus on the right things, and put people in place that allows you to create the platform and scale up. We're not really going to dive into the steps that you did there. We want to look at your style of leadership and what you feel like has been a big part of the growth of that. If I said, what is the most important part of the growth of your company in terms of leadership, what would you say?
Yeah, I would definitely say it was the cultural transformation that we went through in about 2018, and really just that pivot to having a really strong focus on culture, defining who are we currently, who do we want to be, and how can we constantly reinforce that. I would say that, in my opinion, product fit is an easier thing to fix than culture. When you have, let's say, hey, we need to change our pricing, we need to change, how we're positioning a product, but having a culture, because it has a lot of emotion. You have people that have built something that they are extremely proud of and they're tied to, but also those same people can sometimes get in the way of continuing to scale. And there's a lot of different ways I've seen this approached in terms of, I've seen leaders come in and just say, it's easier to clean house and start again. That's very much like the antithesis of my leadership style. So I believe that truly everyone has a place somewhere. And I would like to, for me, I want to keep all of our folks in-house with me, but put them in the right seats. So that's where really a lot of our focus for our growth was on, is making sure that we had just the right people in the right seat. And I'm, one of the things I'm most proud of is that through that transformation, we didn't let anybody go. We have a very, very high retention rate. And so we've had very few employees leaving from 2018 till now. And that makes me extremely proud, because it means we've developed a culture that makes people feel like they are valued and comfortable, and they're growing, they have opportunity here. And so, that's what's most important to me from a leadership standpoint. I mean, we're running a business, we need to make a profit, but work is a big part of your life. And to know that we can provide that base has been pretty amazing.
I love the fact that you have a high retention rate. I think a lot of people listening into this would say, how do we improve our retention rate? But before we dive into that one question, let's look at this cultural transformation. Brittany, you're an attorney, and let's be honest, most attorneys aren't known for their touchy-feeliness and their ability to connect with people and whatnot. What do you feel like made you the right person for this leadership role?
Yeah, for sure. So, I think that the truth is that I was the right person for Sembler at the time in their development. And so really what I think helped me, because I was a young leader, I was a new leader. I've worked in consulting my whole career. So you work with clients, but it's very different working with clients versus managing people. And so I really came in with a very open mind. And I think that helped, because every company, whatever my next venture is down the line, isn't going to be the same as Sembler, and they're not going to face the same challenges Sembler's facing, and it'll be different, different people and different cultural challenges. And so I really came in with an open mind of, this team has been able to get the company to this point. So to disregard what they have to offer, I think is really short-sighted and ignorant, even if I can bring in the best of the best from larger companies or whatever that looks like to do the jobs that they're doing. They've gotten it here, and so they have something to offer. So where are we hitting a stick point? And it took a long time. Like, this was not we did not go into this in March, we're going to have a cultural transformation, and in September, we're going to be complete with our cultural transformation. It was building a lot of trust. It was understanding where the lack of trust came from some of the employees and why, because some of it was, whether it was well-founded or not, it was their experience, it was the way that they felt. And so again, to disregard that, in my opinion, was just being short-sighted. So it was a lot of patience and a lot of building that trust and building those relationships. And that really allowed for us to, continue to grow and to bring on new people and allow us to scale up after that.
Now, Brittany just talked about an open mind. Now, how open is your mind as the leader of a company? I find that a lot of leaders are very determined of what they're going to do next, and they really would rather just put their head down and get the work done. But when you have an open mind, you're willing to consider other perspectives. You're willing to challenge the beliefs that have taken you to this far. Because what I know is sometimes things have to change. It's not just more work. You have to be open to what is new and what is possible. You have to be willing to let go and try new things. And you have to be willing to self-evaluate yourself about what's getting in your own way. And sometimes you have to identify those blind spots. That's my specialty inside my executive coaching. And if you have any questions about how I can help you or serve you, make sure you reach out to me. I'd love to help. Now back to Brittany.
I want to press into a little bit of this because you have this view of leadership that must be authentic and have a sense of transparency to it. How does that create the space for you to be the leader that your company deserves?
Yeah, that's a great question because it's definitely a balance, right? Like I think I approach things very often with a sense of humor and a sense of, especially previously could be a little bit self-deprecating. And that's something that I've had to learn as a leader, and especially as our team has scaled and we scaled our executive team is the right balance there. So it's definitely, I don't want to make that seem like it was a easy, just came in, built relationships, and everyone followed me and listened. But I think that obviously success breeds, trust, and people say, okay, like this did work, like this idea that she had, or this moving, pieces did work. But it is always a balance too of making sure that you are so respected, that people understand that like it's an open dialogue, that it's an open door. I want to hear feedback, but then at a certain point, like, okay, this is a decision we are making and we're going to move forward. And like there's a closed end that feedback as well. And so I think the way that we've been able to do that is one, keep very consistent communication. Our executive team is very lock and step and aligned. And when we don't feel aligned, we're very quickly to get on and make sure that we are getting realigned. And that way there's no confusion when we're communicating back to employees. You're not going to hear one thing from me and a different thing from our COO. And that can be really difficult from my experience to have, especially if you have a CEO that is a bit more of a visionary and is out like on the road more and doing more business development, and there's an operator, and if they're not aligned, those things that can cause a lot of confusion. And so that's really, a big focus point of ours, to have consistent communication and to also have an open door and have a very open mind, because I definitely do not know everything about this business and I did not scale up to where we were at alone, but also having, drawing a line in the sand of, okay, we appreciate the feedback. This is how we're moving forward. And that's been really great for us. I think people feel like they can get feedback, but it's also, they understand like when that line is drawn, it's like, okay, we're backing off now and moving forward in this way.
Inside this cultural transformation that we've been talking about, you have probably made some mistakes in this journey, most of them probably recoverable. What could you share with us today that would help us understand and avoid the mistakes that you had in this journey?
Oh man, let's dig up that stuff. No, I'm just kidding. Truthfully, I think for me, it was a lot of realizing that no one knows everything. And so I think I put a lot of pressure, and I think a lot of CEOs like that are in especially high growth situations, all of a sudden this business that you had conviction in and confidence in is, becoming more than what you have potentially done before. And I think it's a lot of high growth. A lot of people weren't at, a Fortune 200 company and then started one and it started growing. Like it's a lot of people, the business is outpacing what their knowledge is. And so I think that has been definitely helpful. We faced a lot of challenges in 2020 as leaders, both between COVID with the political landscape and with things that were happening in terms of how we support our employees, especially like our employees of colors and our employees of color and our minority employees. And I think for me, that was a big challenge because I had such a focus on culture. I really felt this pressure of, am I showing up correctly? Like, am I saying the right thing? What if I'm not? What if I'm not developing a culture that is inclusive, that is diverse? And so for about 2 weeks, I put a lot of pressure on myself, a lot of sleepless nights. And truthfully, a lot of tears of am I the right person to be doing this? And then finally it's okay if I don't know that. It's not okay if I don't go find someone that does. And so we reached out and brought in a DEI agent, and DEI is sort of the example I'll use. We reached out, we've gone to a point of about 40 employees. Then we've got a DEI agent in, we've hired an HR function, and really just being open to feeling like you don't have to do it all on your own. And it's okay to raise your hand for help. And that's why it's so, important. I've started joining CEO groups and, looking at getting coaches and things like that, because I think it gives you perspective of everyone is looking to you. You are the leader, but you don't have to know everything, and no one does. And you can bring in those people that can really fill those gaps for you, especially the ones that are very important to you, in your core values.
Now, Brittany just said, no one knows everything. Now, this is absolutely true. And the quicker you learn that you don't have to have all the answers, you will be a better leader, because your people will understand that it's okay to say, I don't know. I'm not quite sure, but we'll figure this out. All this comes back to mindset, because if you have a mindset that you have to know everything and that you're infallible, then you will begin to dominate dominate and really drive the business forward through your own authority. And that's not the best way to create a fast growth company. You want to make sure people feel empowered. And saying you don't know is the first start of that. You want to make sure that you as a leader understand that you don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to be perfect, but you have to be willing to look at new things and challenge yourself. Now, this relates to the last little excerpt I shared with you about having an open mind, but I want to make sure that this is really clear. I have a lot of leaders I work with that are open-minded to a point, but they really want to just put their head down and get the work done. I say that over and over because it really is a challenge and what gets in the way. Because sometimes you've got to question what you're doing and where you're going. You've got to question how you are showing up for the team. And many times it's from the inside out that these solutions find their way. Make sure that you understand this as you move forward as a leader. If you have any questions, reach out, let me know. Back to Brittany.
I want to dive into that, getting support outside of this. As you know, I'm an executive coach. I support a lot of CEOs, their teams, and founders. I just came back from a retreat where I was doing a communication workshop with one of my clients, a 20-person team. And it was an incredible experience. But I think a lot of leaders see coaches and outside help as something that they resist because they should know the answers. Obviously, you don't resist that. You're very humble in this aspect. Without sharing the names of these groups and the coaches, what did you get from each one of those experiences that we could learn from?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think very high, like one, it's very lonely to be a CEO of a company. And depending on, no matter what the size is, I think you still have to have some sort of barriers and boundaries around like you and your relationships with your employees. And so one, it provides community, even if it's the coach or the group, because it provides somebody else that you can feel like you can vent to because you're still human. Like you're still facing the same challenges and you don't necessarily want to have that vent is probably the wrong word, but you don't want to have like, to communicate those frustrations maybe to your executive team and definitely to your employees and maybe lose any sort of faith in them. And so that definitely is one big piece, but also becomes someone else to bounce things off of. And I know that seems probably very obvious, but as much as we all want to believe that we have like the most unique thing ever, businesses are all businesses face pretty much the same challenges. And so even though I'm a young leader, I've had the great blessing of consulting for companies from help them start, like originate their formation documents to Fortune like 200 companies. And so I've worked across a lot of teams and they're different scales and they have different impacts, but they're all facing the same problems. And so to have a group or to have someone who has the experience of, especially like a coach who works with different companies, so they see the problems come in different ways, and it's just been really helpful because it can say that, coach or group can say, well, at my company or one of my clients' companies, this is how they handled it. And it gives you a new perspective of a challenge that you've been facing. And you just help somebody else it helps having someone else to talk through those things with.
I couldn't have said it better myself because those are definitely some of the benefits of these experiences. And I'm not just talking about coaching, and you're not a client of mine, so I just want to point that out. I love the fact that you were humble enough to ask for support through these things because it does pay off. It's paid off for me in the coaching experiences I've had. The reason I am a coach is because I went through a period of growth where I wasn't prepared and I got someone to help me. So I appreciate you sharing that with us today. Brittany, I want to, wrap up with one or two more questions around this. You believe that being humble is a part of your own leadership that has made an impact around this cultural transformation, around the impact and growth of your company. When you really get into the heart of it, how has that played a role in the growth of the company?
Yeah, I mean, I truly believe that my employees, they trust me. They understand that I am going to make mistakes, and when I do, I'm going to own them. And so with that, I think that they feel more empowered to take chances and make mistakes as well. While we have 100 employees, we are still very scrappy. We are still relatively young in our growth in terms of like how much we scaled in the past 3 years compared to the first 14. And so we are really, it's important. We're putting a lot of responsibility onto employees that truly might not be prepared for it yet either. And so to be able to lead by example of saying, I don't know how to handle this right now, but we're going to go and find out. We're going to go find the right people that can help us handle. And then to really push that down from the top up has really helped our employees to take more chances in what they're doing, to admit when mistakes are made. We've had incidences where they've been costly mistakes that have been made. And I think what we're most proud of is I've never had an employee that hasn't come to me and said, this has happened and like, I need help and I don't know what to do, and not been afraid of, am I going to be fired? Should I try to hide this? And really having that trust that employees feel that they can, raise things up without having to worry about their job. jobs. Like, I know it sounds very obvious, but if you're not really leading and showing that through your leadership and showing that you don't know everything, but, obviously, again, the balance of instilling confidence and faith, but really living that truthfully, it won't trickle down. And I think that's really been paramount to our success and our growth.
Well, Brittany, I appreciate you being here, and thanks for sharing your wisdom.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
I'm going to recap here for those listening in. What did we learn in today's episode? Well, really was about leadership. And leadership comes in many different flavors, but you want to make sure that you understand that leadership is the core foundation of anything you're going to do in your company. The cultural transformations that are necessary as the company makes a pivot, not just in product, but in people, but also being open to looking at things the other ways, being open to other advisors helping you and supporting you. And finally, being humble enough to really understand and create an environment where people feel safe in their work, they feel connected. And remember that whole conversation about retention. You have a better retention when all these things are in place. And so that's my reflection on today's episode. If you are a leader looking to take it to the next level and you're not quite sure what that next level looks like, let me help you. I have a clarity call where I can help you zero in on what's getting in the way of your leadership and your growth. And in that call, it's absolutely free, but to help you become the best leader you can be, the one that your team craves, create an empowered team, increase the value of your company all at the same time. Just register your clarity call, go to genehammett.com, and you can schedule your call right away. When you think of growth and you think of leadership, think of Growth Think Tank. As always, we encourage. We'll see you next time.